Good morning, guys. Happy Wednesday. So I want you to think about something today. We've all seen what happened in Afghanistan over the weekend here, last 48 hours for all intents and purposes, with everything going crazy. But I want to run this one by you, all right? If you think about what happened there, the Taliban, which is about 80,000 people, okay? Not huge, all things considered. I mean, like we've said many times, we've got over 1 million in our military, all right? But 80,000 people. For the most part, armed with AK-47s, maybe some RPGs, something like that, but certainly not, any first-class military hardware, at least a couple of days ago. Granted, now they've got all the stuff that we left there, but that's beside the point. But I want you to think about this. Afghanistan, as a country on a map, is about 95% the size of Texas. Now, if you ever drove from Texas, all right, it's literally, and I did this drive, so I know it, about a 13-hour drive from El Paso to Dallas, and you've still got the rest of East Texas to go to before you hit Arkansas, okay? So you're talking about 15 hours to drive across it at 80 miles an hour? Okay. It's a pretty big country. I can't tell you how far it is, from, say, Midland, Odessa down to, Corpus Christi or something like that. I mean, never made that drive. But it's a big state. We all know that's the second largest landmass in the United States behind Alaska. And that's how big Afghanistan is. And 80,000 guys in pickup trucks with AK-47s and RPGs took over the entire country in a week. The U.S. military left, and the Afghan military turned tail and ran. Okay. Now, let's say something like that happens here in the U.S., which is very possible, okay? You have a group that goes in, it doesn't have to be 80,000 people. Let's say it's 8, and storms New York City, Chicago, L.A., Washington, D.C. Very, very quickly, a small group like that can take over a large amount of territory, especially if most of the people are afraid to do anything. Now, we've got a couple of advantages here in the U.S., and unfortunately for those of you in Australia, Canada, yada, 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 most of you guys don't have the same advantages we do. A lot of us are armed, and we can fight back. But here's the problem. I would bet at least 3/4 of the people in the United States who say they're going to fight back will freeze. Something's going to happen. It's a whole lot different than shooting at paper targets at the range. Okay? It's a whole lot different when there's bullets coming back at you feasibly. And people are going to freeze, and people are going to surrender. And if you have any sort of invading force, I mean, who knows who it could be? I mean, could it be the Chinese? Could it be Iran? Could it be the Taliban? Could it be MS-13? Could it be the drug cartels from Mexico? I mean, there's a whole lot of organized groups like this who can easily storm places in the United States and take over very quickly. And people don't think about that, okay? Again, remember why everything that happened in Afghanistan happened. You're fighting against an enemy who's not afraid to die, okay? Actually, they welcome death. They think they're going to be martyred. Now, it's not something that's in the American vernacular of being martyred. So that, again, it's knowing who your enemy, your opponent is. And when that opponent has no problem strapping on a suicide vest and going into Central Park or, I don't know, what the hell is it called? The Lollapalooza Fest in Chicago. Granted, it's over, I know, okay? Or go to Lincoln Park in Chicago or anything like that. When somebody that's got no problem of doing that, you don't have any recourse. You don't know that's coming until it's too late. If you happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, you're done, okay? Now, I say that because what areas are going to be the targets? Well, we pretty much know 9/11 told us that, okay? Washington, D.C. and New York are going to be the two biggest targets for any sort of invading force, for using lack of a better word, okay? If, and I don't know, people say, the movie Red Dawn or something, that was a freaking movie, okay? But, they're not going to land and go after Lincoln, Nebraska first. They'll go after the crux of what makes America. Washington, D.C. for politics, New York for the money, okay? Those are the two things that define the United States, at least to foreigners, okay? If you're in those cities, what are you going to do? My question to everybody, if you're in the city, if you're in the suburbs, if you're in the country, what is your plan? What are you planning on doing if something happens? And I'm talking again now, if we get into a war type scenario. I mean, I'm not talking about a power outage or something like that. I'm talking about if there are boots on the ground in the United States, or if there are boots on the ground between ourselves in the United States. What is your plan? Are you organized? Do you have a group that you can get together with? Some people do, all right? Some people don't. Some people are like, I'm just going to sit on my porch and, that's it, okay? For a lot of people, that's basically your plan, okay? I mean, not all of us are, certainly not me, 25 years old and ready to go humping it through the woods, chasing down people, okay? I've said many times, if it comes to my doorstep, I'll fight back, okay? My chances are better doing that than they are being the antagonist. But, again, it's still not a good scenario. Fortunately, I've got my wife and friends and, small mag that I can count on here, that we'd all have each other's back. But, we all plan for things that we think we are capable of. Do you really know what you're capable of? If there's people, living, breathing, walking, talking people coming at you, do you have what it takes? Everybody talks about FEMA camps all the time. And some people, believe it or not, as much as they won't admit it now, are going to make that last second decision going, I'd rather be in a FEMA camp than a gunfight. And I can't fault them for it, because everybody's got to make their own decisions on what's going to happen. But I want you to think about that, because if something does happen, the fact that, now the United States under the illustrious 46 administration looks like the cowards of the county here. The rest of the world, as we've already seen, Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, everybody is already, wringing their hands and making a mockery of the United States and how weak we are, okay? If you don't think that's not going to embolden people to say, hey, now's the time to go after them while they're back on their heels, you don't know. None of us do. But it's something to think about. So, just wanted to give you that as a little bit of somber thought for a Wednesday morning. Have a good day, y'all. Pinball out.